You're listening to the Sandstorm podcast, your regular dose of heaviness right here in Dubai. Hosted by Sandy Syn.
What's up, metalheads? It's your girl Sandy, and welcome to the Sandstorm podcast. Today, we have a very special guest whose band will be returning for the second time in the UAE and will be headlining the Sandstorm Metal Festival on February 7th. Please welcome one of the vocalists of Lacuna Coil, Andrea Ferro. Hello,
Hello,
Andrea.
hello. Hello,
Welcome to
ciao.
the show. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being here. First of all,
My
how are you
pleasure.
doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm recovering from we just finished a very long tour, so I'm taking care of business from home. So just make all
Okay.
I'm the guy in the band that does all the
all the
accountings and stuff, like all the fun stuff.
all the fun stuff.
So
But do you have a chance to enjoy your winter holidays? Do you have any plans?
yeah, but it's gonna be after Christmas because now, as I say, we're finishing all the bureaucratic stuff from the tour,
Mm-hmm.
recovering a little bit, try to get, sleep in a regular bed and eat
Yeah.
some proper meals.
Yeah.
And then after that, after Christmas, it's going to be with the family. And in these days, we're seeing all the friends that you don't get to see during the
Mm-hmm.
year because we're always away. So we're doing a lot of Christmas dinner and lunches and stuff. So we're doing that. And then after Christmas, we probably gonna enjoy more, go to the mountain a little bit, and have proper vacation.
Oh, lovely. You have such nice plans for the winter holidays. At least you can enjoy and spend time with family and friends. And yeah, I do. This is what I wanted to talk about first. You guys just came back from a very long European tour. So yeah, I was going to ask you, are you fully recovered or you're still adjusting or are you still mentally there?
Yeah, we recover. Obviously, physically, you need a little bit more because we've been singing every night, and this year, especially not only the European tour, but in general, this year we've been away from home for like 200 days.
Wow.
We played a lot of shows. We did like 50, almost 60 flights this year and 150,000 kilometers around the world. So it's been quite a challenging year, but very good, very satisfying as well. But now we do need a little bit of time off, no singing for a while, no
Mm-hmm,
screaming.
yeah. Yeah, of course, for sure, for sure. So after being on a tour for that long of a time, is there anything that you miss from tour, or is there anything you don't miss?
Yeah. There's a thing they call the tour blues. When you
Mm-hmm.
finish a tour, you kind of miss it, because you are in that reality for such a long time. The fact of traveling, the fact of always being in company with a lot of people, because when
Mm-hmm.
we move, we're usually between 12 and 15 people traveling around. So it's a lot of people you see every day, you chat every day, and so your routine changes completely
Yeah,
and you need a little bit of time to adjust, but overall I'm also happy to be home because after such a long time you need to
of
take a
course.
break from everybody else. And so there's days where you miss a little bit the routine of the touring and the fact that you are somewhere around the
Mm-hmm.
world seeing people and talking to different people. But on the other hand, it's good to be home for a while and just do more of a normal routine.
Yeah, of course, it's a huge shift from being like around a lot of people. It's a different energy, more fast paced, and then suddenly you slow down. So it's quite a big adjustment. So during this tour, it was focused on your latest album, Sleepless Empire. What is your favorite track from the album, and what makes it stand out for you?
Yeah, obviously I don't have only one
Yeah.
because it's we work hard on all the songs. We try when we make an album, we try to give importance to every song. Although obviously there's some songs that are always gonna stand out more than others for correct different characteristics. One of my favorites probably Gravity because it has a quite a dark atmosphere. and there's a very rhythmical part in the beginning where I do a lot of the screaming on the rhythmical pattern, and then a very epic chorus with Christina. So I think it kind of embrace a little bit of all our characteristics as a band. You know, it has the groove, heavy
Hmm.
screaming part, but also the very melodic, more epic chorus, and then also the we call the variation is very epic from Christina, and the lyrics are very deep and very touching for us. So it's been one of the I think this the song that represent better the sound of Lacuna Coil nowadays, you know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. It does represent your sound very well. And I was also going to say Gravity is also my favorite song on the album. And in some way, I can relate to that because so over here we get a bunch of different musicians from the scene and we cover some songs. And actually Gravity was one of the songs we covered. We did this
Oh,
live.
nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I did your part. So I know, I can feel the energy of the lyrics, intensity of it. It's super fun song to play, very powerful. And I love the changes in it. So I agree with you with the Gravity, but the whole album is amazing. It's really hard to pick, but I would say Gravity is a great
Yeah, I think
choice. Yeah.
it's a good compromise, you know, because there's songs that are heavier, like Oxygen, and also
Yes.
it goes down really well on the live setting. There's songs that are more atmospherical, like uh, no, I'm really bad with the titles now,
It's
but
fine.
the super slow one, and so there's a little bit of everything, and I think Gravity is the right middle way
Balance.
between all the characteristics of the sound.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So, you guys have been around for a really long time. So, over time, would you say, when you make a new album, does it become more easy, more natural for you guys, or do you feel it becomes more challenging, more pressure?
I think it's both because on one hand we're more experienced, so we know what it takes to write an album, and then we feel when the album has a great energy and is going to be a kind of a appreciated by the fans more than maybe some other albums. But on the other hand, you've done a lot, so it's also hard to keep your sound interesting, you know, because obviously we kind of exploit a lot of our characteristics as singers, as composers. So sometimes you feel that like you're repeating yourself, you know. So we
Mm-hmm.
try to avoid. Obviously, we do have a certain sound that we don't escape from it. Of course, there's going to be certain characteristics that are always going to be in our music, but we always also are a kind of band that always try to make a record that makes sense nowadays. You know, we don't want it to sound too old or too
Mm-hmm.
different or too. We want something that makes sense in 2025 when you release it, but on the other hand, you also have to have the characteristics of the history of the band, you know, and don't go too far from certain things, you know. So it's both easy and harder, you know, because it's sometimes you feel you already done this, you know, so you want to do
Mm-hmm.
something a little slightly different, you know. But I think in the old record, there's some space for songs that are more close to the origin of the band, and some other where you can just move away a little bit. But definitely not easy to do.
Yeah, well, it sounds very effortless, and every time you guys do an album, it still sounds, you have your signature sound, but you're still up with the time, still sounds modern, but you don't lose your identity with the song. So you guys are doing a very excellent job of that, and I think it comes with all those years of experience. So it's a really awesome job with that. So we're gonna shift back about the tour, something a little bit more funny. Um, while you guys were touring Europe, I really enjoyed watching these series, and I'm sure a lot of the fans did as well. When you guys did your slice by slice Instagram series where you guys tried pizza in every different city, whose idea was that?
I don't remember who decided to record it because we always kind of do it even in the past, you know, because
Mm,
very often after show food it's either pizza or kebab or
yeah.
falafel. there's not a huge choice of stuff you can have, unless you're gonna eat. Like, for example, in America, when we tour in the States, it's easier to get different stuff at every hour of the day. Everything is kind of 24 hours open, and you sometimes you buy some stuff and then you keep it in the fridge on the bus and you eat
Mm-hmm.
it after show. While in Europe is more either the venue is gonna cook some food for you, or they're gonna order something from outside, but it's usually those two or three options.
Yeah.
There's not many options, and pizza is obviously the easiest one. So we always kind of get pizza, and so we always tried it, and most of the time it was quite horrible. I have to say, in the years, it's been improving a lot, the quality, both in Europe and in North America. And I think on this specific tour, Scandinavia has been very surprising,
Oh.
because if of course you can expect a pretty decent pizza in Italy or Spain or Portugal, which is more Latin country with more of a tradition of pizza, let's say. But in Scandinavia, usually it was always the worst one, like the most weirdest combination.
Yeah.
And I have to say that it has improved a lot. And I think Stockholm was one of the best of the tour, very surprisingly. And we get to stop also in Tampere in Finland. But that there we went to a proper Italian restaurant because they invited us on the day off,
Mm-hmm.
and we went to get a proper pizza. So that was obviously the best, but that doesn't count because it's not after show pizza. Because after show pizza is the pizza that comes with the delivery. The promoter order it from his usual place, and then you get it, and you can choose. You don't
Mm.
choose the where from. It's a good thing is that you get what you get. You cannot choose the best pizzeria in the city and then get it from there. It's only the one that delivery, so it's usually not the best
Yeah.
quality. But sometimes it's very surprising. And on this tour, I think Scandinavia and Switzerland has been very surprisingly good pizza. But I have to say that even in North America, where was really bad for us, like the tomato sauce was always super sweet, and the dough was very rubbery. I have to say in the last 10 years has been improving a lot, and we got a pretty decent pizza also in the States.
Well, it seems like each city is improving with their pizza game. I'm especially surprised with Scandinavia. To each their own, but yes, they are known for their very interesting, unique combinations. So
Yeah.
I'm very like surprised that you said that it's one of the best. So that's good. That's a improvement. But what was the worst pizza?
I think one of the worst was actually in probably in I have to say it wasn't terrible, but was very, very average. So not like
Mm,
you can eat it still, but
yeah.
and a lot was in I think in Germany there was some pretty average pizza, but not terrible, not terrible, and then it was just nothing exciting, it was just very bland. Uh, but yeah, probably Germany, but in general, you never know. Sometimes you can get even a pretty bad pizza in Italy, even if the tradition is pretty strong. But there's very good standard, but also very low standards as well. So
Yeah, of course.
you can never tell. It's not that you're sure you're gonna have a great pizza also in Italy. Obviously, the average is higher than some other places. And then I have to say that everywhere you go, people has also is their own flavor for pizza. Maybe you're used to a certain type of marinara sauce,
Hmm.
or you certain ingredients that you only use in your country. So for you, maybe if you come to Italy, it's weird what we do. So it doesn't mean that because we're famous for the
Hmm.
pizza that it's gonna be 100% you're gonna like it.
Exactly. Well, I've been to Italy, and there's no doubt that it's the best. So it's definitely top for me. But I'm trying my very best for you guys when you come here. I'm trying to find the best pizza in Dubai. Let's see if it's good or not, but I will try to find the best one. Do you think you guys will continue this series in the UAE and during your Asia Australian tour?
Yeah, I think it's interesting to do it in these countries because they're not typical places where we go, so we don't get to go very often. So it's interesting to see what they have there, especially probably more than Dubai, where I think I'm pretty sure we can find pretty good pizza, but I'm not sure about Singapore and Japan.
Yeah.
That's gonna be
Ex
interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be
And
very interesting.
Yeah, and then maybe next US tour, probably we're gonna do something different. We can try, I don't know, the best burgers or something like that, maybe to make it to give it a little twist, maybe.
Exactly. No, I think that's a really good idea. And I'm looking forward to seeing that because that's extremely entertaining series. But we'll try to help you find the best pizza here in Dubai. So speaking of Dubai, this will be your second time here in the UAE. So what do you guys remember? I know it's a few years ago. What do you remember when you first came to Dubai? What do you remember about your first show here?
I was really impressed because we didn't know what to expect, obviously, because it wasn't a typical, for us at least, a typical place to go and play. So it was very exciting and interesting to see the city, of course, that we never got to see, and also to see what we didn't know what to expect from the show. And the greatest thing I remember was there was people coming not only from Dubai but also from Iran and Saudi Arabia, like people from all over the area, let's say, and that was great to see people just to discover that we had people listening to our music also in those territories that we don't get to know up close because it's not we're not in touch a lot, like we're more used to tour in America or South America or Europe or sometimes Australia and Japan, but that part of the world we never got to explore a lot, even knowing a lot of people from that area. So it was great to see that there's the same love for metal that there is everywhere else, even in those countries that are not typically metal markets,
Yeah.
let's say, so we just didn't know, we didn't know much information about it, and so it was great to see that they have a record store and they make concerts. It's great, and I think I hope it's going to open up even more because I would love to play also other territories, in that area, which I'm sure are going to have metal fans as well.
Yeah, over the years, the Middle East the metal scene has really grown a lot. Even from the last time you were here, now even in places like Saudi Arabia, they're having metal shows now. But still till this day, yeah, not a lot of bands and people in general know about the metal scene here in the Middle East. And this is why we do what we do with Sandstorm Music Company. This is why we're doing the podcast, so we can spread awareness of the metal scene here, so you guys can share like your experiences over here and everything. But it's been like growing very fast over here, and I'm really glad that you guys enjoyed your time over here. And next time it's going to be really awesome. We have, as you said, we have people from everywhere going, because we don't have a lot of these kind of shows in the Middle East. Yes, you get people from Oman, Saudi Arabia, from Lebanon coming to this festival, and it's really a beautiful thing. So when you were here last time, did you guys do what tourists? Did you have time to do any touristy things? Did you get to see anything?
A little bit, but not a lot, not as much as we would have loved to. But we've seen obviously the buildings,
Bush
the
Khalifa,
the,
yeah.
the Burj Khalifa, yeah. And then we went to the market. There's
Mm,
big market, but we would have loved to go also see a little bit of the desert, a little bit of the
yes.
beaches. But we didn't have enough time, so maybe this time we have one. I think we're gonna have at least one day to explore a little bit. uh yeah, it would be great to see more, because I'm sure there's beautiful places to see, and we never get the chance to see it. But as you say, I hope it's going to open up because we would really, it's great to see that there's people, the love for music and for metal, also in more unusual places, let's say, for us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can definitely arrange something in the desert if there's a more time for you guys. And now it's the perfect weather to go to the desert, because if you come in the summer, forget about
Yeah, they're gonna
you
die in
will
the heat.
you will combust in flames. But now the weather is amazing, especially in the evening, to go to the desert. So we can we can work something out, I'm sure. Yes. So we spoke about touring. We talked about the album. We had talked about Dubai. So now I want to focus more on you as an extreme vocalist. And as an extreme vocalist myself, I always like to ask these specific questions. I would like to know more about your vocal journey, your technique. So just, can you tell us how your journey was as a vocalist, where it began, what drew you into doing extreme metal vocals?
Yeah, I mean, when me and Marco, our bass player, we started playing together. He was in the very young age when we were into skateboarding, and so from skateboarding we were listening to a lot of the hardcore punk kind of genre, and also the metal because when we were kids, it was the 80s, so metal was very common, like bands like Iron Maiden or the Halloween and all those bands that were becoming really famous at back then. And so we had a background of hard rock metal and also hardcore punk. So when we started playing, we were more doing something closer to hardcore punk, and so my vocals was more about the screaming, but not in a growl way, not in a death metal way, but more in a powerful hardcore way. And then from there we shift a little bit more towards death metal. We started listening to bands, first bands like Pantera, and then more into extreme bands like Obituary, Morbid Angel,
Hmm.
Cannibal Corpse, and also on the other hand, also bands like Paradise Lost and Anathema, My Dying Bride. And so we will shift a little bit towards more of a metal, darker side. And so in the beginning, I was doing more of the growl, but on the other hand, I had also a little bit of the clean because we also listened to bands like Fate No More or like more melodics, more uh, crossing over between the genres, and so we were doing a mix of the more growl death metal and clean a little bit, and then moving forward until our demo in 96, I was doing mostly growl vocals, and then we got Christina to do the cleans. And then when we signed the deal and started recording, and we started to do more singing together on the clean and do more of a distorted voice, but not properly growl. Only maybe some songs there was still growl, but the music shift a little bit more towards a softer side, and so we were using more of the semi distorted voice, more in the style of Paradise Lost, for
Hmm.
example, Icon, or those kind of records, the Draconian Times. And in the recent years, since we shift the lineup from the classic Lacuna Coil lineup to newer musicians, younger musicians, we felt more freedom to go heavier. Marco, composing the songs, felt more, you could push more on the double bass, on certain heaviness on the guitars. And so we kind of reintroduced the growl vocals again. And we've been steady in that direction for the last couple of records as well. So I experiment a little bit of everything. I always liked singing in general. I took some vocal lessons in the beginning of the career, but it was more like generic. There was no specific vocal lessons for
Hmm.
growling or distorted voice. It was mostly the clean singing, classic lessons like the breathing technique,
Yes, yeah, that
the
helps a lot. Yeah.
abdominal parts, the
Hmm.
relaxing the muscles, but just the normal stuff, that is always useful. So I learned a little bit more by myself how to do the screaming and the growling. And then now I'm more focusing more, putting more attention on the different styles. I wish I had more time to study and practice, because when you're on tour, you kind of try to save the voice more than
Exactly.
exercise a lot. It's more important to be well rested and saving the voice because you have a long tour in front of you. So there's no time to study or to do a lot of practicing because you need
Exactly.
to keep the voice for the. So when I'm home now, I'm gonna take, for example, a break, and then I'm gonna study a little bit
Closer to time.
more new ways of doing, like singers like the guy from Lorna Shore or stuff like that. I like to experiment that because I know how to do the growl, but I'm more coming from the Sepultura, that kind of growl. I like the growl when you can recognize the singer. I don't like so
Mhm.
much the growl when you get too similar to other growls. And I like it when you can still hear, like Max Cavalera, for example, when he sings, you can hear his voice behind the growl. And that's what I like, characteristic singers where they can recognize still the voice, the tone of the voice in the screaming, in the growls. So but I like also to experiment more extreme techniques. It's just that I need some time to do it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's interesting that you say that. It doesn't matter how many years you've been doing screaming, things always develop. There's always new techniques and everything. And we're always continuously learning. It never stops. There's always something new. And it's always interesting to see like where everyone started. Like I would have never known that you started with like hardcore punk,
Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
how you sound now.
We were listening to a lot of like Black Flags,
Hmm.
Dead Kennedys, Circle Jerks, all the bands from Bad Religion, all that movement, and also the New York hardcore, Agnostic Front, and all that stuff. So we definitely come from that, and I think you can still hear it in some song. Like if you take, for example, I've done a song with Machine Head. We've done a song with Machine Head for the new
Hmm.
record, and then you can hear my part, and it's all high pitch screaming like hardcore style,
Yeah,
and that's because it was fitting the thrash metal kind of
exactly.
riffing from Machine Head. So I love to do that as well, but I obviously it's harder to incorporate in Lacuna Coil. There's some parts here and there in songs like Layers of Time or in a couple of songs, but it's more difficult to put it in our music, obviously.
Yeah, it's really interesting how you can like put different types of vocals and in different songs and everything, but and you can people you don't know like what else they're capable of because you hear their music, but you're like they can also do this, they can also do that. So for other, metal vocalists, what kind of advice would you give them, people who are starting out?
I mean, I think if you study the basic like I did, it's always useful. Like the breathing technique, the fact that you have to use your abdomen here, the abs to sustain the voice, and you don't have to involve the throat a lot. So those techniques are I think are timeless, are always useful, no matter what style of singing you're gonna do later. Because it's having a lot of breath. It's always useful to keep the scream very high, very
Hmm.
very long, sorry, very long and powerful. And so to learn that, you need to really have a control over your muscles, to keep the note for a long time,
Yes,
or
yes.
for so the those techniques are always useful. And then obviously in the more you do, if you want to do more extreme vocals, then how to you need to learn how to not involve the throat too much. Obviously there's a little bit of throat in that
Hmm.
kind of voice, but not too much. Otherwise, you're gonna lose your voice after one show. You need to really be able to. I don't want to say fake, but to sustain the distortion also with technique, not just with the power, of the voice. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you burn yourself out very quickly. You need to have control and know where to position the range of the voice. Like if you go higher with the scream, you need to position it on a higher part of your mouth, or lower, you have to position it more in the back of the throat. So it's very important to understand where is the voice you want to do, and that you can do it also by trying to sing like other singers. Like you see, there's a lot of stuff you can find nowadays on the internet to study by yourself also, where a lot of good teachers that they explain where you find the range of the voice. For us, for example, it was difficult to understand because me and Christina, we have two very different range. So sometimes in the older songs, she was the part was too low for her or too high for me. So it was hard to combine the two voices in the same song because of the difference of range of vocals. With growl vocals, it's a little easier to
Hmm.
to 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 make that gap less evident, because with growl I can do also some keys where I'd be uncomfortable doing it in a clean voice or in a semi-distorted voice. So it's easier to combine the growl with different pitches. But so you need to understand where you want to go and what you want to do with your voice. But I would suggest at the beginning, study the basics that are always useful. I found useful also I have a couple of DVDs called The Zen of Screaming from
Yeah.
Melissa. Like she's a really good teacher. I think that can help give, at least it gives you an idea of of understanding better the positioning of the voice in your mouth or in your throat. But overall, you have to practice. You have to try to see what's your range, understand where are the keys where you're comfortable and the keys where you are too extreme for you. And we've all made that mistake of
Of course. Yeah.
writing parts that are too high, and you're never gonna do them live because you just too.
Mm-hmm.
We still make that mistake sometimes, even nowadays. Because in the studio it's easier to sing than live. Live you're more pressure, you just adrenaline, you never hear really well because of the technical conditions. There's a lot of noise, the mics picks up everything that happens around you, so it's very hard, much harder to sing live than to sing in the studio. In the studio you're very relaxed, you can do it a million times, you can do
Exactly.
it at home, you can do it, it's much easier to do uh, more extreme stuff at home than do it in a real life, and then do it, sorry, not in the real life, but in the real live setting, and for many, many days, in a row.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you have, it's very accessible to learn if you want to start screaming. You have everything, so many different vocal coaches on YouTube that's very easy to access. Like you were saying, back, when I started, it was only Zen of Screaming. That was the only reference I got. And before I discovered that, I had to learn trial and error from that, the harder way. I feel like
Yeah.
now it's a lot easier. There's a lot of more vocalists that you can look up to and get reference from, lots of things on YouTube. And so I feel like now it's I don't want to say it's easier, but there's more information when it comes to that.
I think it's the evolution. Like when
It's
you see
that definitely.
nowadays, you see kids that are playing some amazing drums or guitars or vocals. And when we started, we were kids, there was nothing. So we were reading the magazines and maybe see a
Exactly.
video on TV. There was no YouTube, nothing like
Yeah.
that. So you're the only teacher you could find, very expensive, and also only classic way of singing. And there was nothing
Yes.
for alternative singing. So you had to learn it by yourself, by making mistakes, by burning your voice, by
Yeah.
all the. And so nowadays, it's normal that the younger generation are more forward and more advanced than we are. That's always evolution. I think it's always the case on everything, sports, music, everything. You see the kids nowadays, they play video games since they're born, so you can't compete with a 10 years old on
Yeah.
internet because he's much faster than you on the thinking, on the
Hmm.
reflex, on everything. I see because I play online sometimes some video games, and I get killed by like 5 years old,
Yeah.
humiliated by,
And you're
by
like,
some
oh, okay.
12 years old around the
Oh,
world. But I still do it because I'm very competitive and I like it. But I I I know that I can't really compete because there's a new approach of the newer generation that can't be the same as ours.
yeah, definitely, definitely. I just have one last question about concerning vocals. I am curious to know what your warm-up routine is like before gig or before recording. I'm always interested to see like how everybody warms up. Some people don't. So how do you do it?
We do very little, like very little, because as I said, it's very important that we save the voice more
Mm-hmm.
than. I see some people warming up for hours, because like for example, Devin Townsend, he warms up for hours because he
Wow.
has a very no, he is an amazing singer. Like he can reach some
Mm.
crazy notes and super screams, but he has a very fragile voice. He told me that he has a very fragile
Mm.
voice, so he needs to warm up long because he needs to get in the right frame. Or for example, Rob Flynn, we toured with Machine in the beginning of the year, and he told me he does all these clean warm ups first, and then he gets his voice dirty. So he's also doing quite a long warm ups. But for example, me and Christina, we always do very little. A little bit of the breathing, a little bit of the humming, a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
the not pushing too much on the warm ups. More of a closed mouth kind of exercise when you go really high, but with closed mouth, or a little bit of the breathing exercise, but nothing crazy. We do maybe while we get dressed for the show,
Mm-hmm.
we do a little bit, but maybe 20 minutes, but maximum, not more than that, because we need to save the voice more. But we do a lot of live shows, so we're very, very trained on sustaining long
Mm-hmm.
terms shows. So we don't want to burn the voice. You know, we
Exactly.
try to save it more than and sleeping is very important.
Yeah.
Being well rest is more important than warming up, because if you're well rest, your breath is great and you have power and you have. When you're not well rested and you're tired, then you can't be 100%, you know, no matter how much warm ups you do, you know. So warm up, but don't go crazy, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how everyone's different approaches. And I'm glad I asked you about this because you want to, like you said, you want to save time, while before a show, you want to sustain your voice. And, it's not always necessary that you have to do very long warm-ups, and not a lot of people know that. So even I wasn't too sure about it. So that's very good advice, good
Yeah, also
tips. Yeah.
I think you don't have to get bored. You know, if you get bored because you are forced to do all this warm up, then you don't want
Mm.
to do it anymore because you get bored and it's not pleasant anymore. So it has to be something that gives you confidence to start a show, but it doesn't have to be something you go
Oh, your
crazy
mic, I
over.
think, went quiet a
Oh,
little bit.
can you hear me now? Hey, 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 can you hear me? No, I don't hear
Something
you
happened with the
anymore.
mic.
Oh,
Maybe
now
it's
I hear
just
you.
okay. Now I can hear you
Can you hear
again.
me now? Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yes, I can hear you.
just say
Was I mute too?
don't
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Don't get obsessed. Like do it, but don't get obsessed with the warm-ups, you know, because it's important, but it's not. If you're gonna miss a note, you will miss the note, no matter how much warm-ups you'll do, you know. So
Yeah.
it's important to warm up and not go crazy.
That's seriously really good advice. I don't think anybody ever looks at it that way or thinks about that. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. So, before we wrap things up, I would love to just ask you one question. What does Lacuna Coil have in store for 2026?
Yeah, so far we have
Mm.
announced a couple of tours. So
Yes.
the one we're talking about in Dubai,
Mm-hmm.
then Singapore, Australia, and Japan. And after that, we just announced yesterday a tour in the US with support from Escape the Fate and
Mm-hmm.
a couple of more bands that are gonna share part of the tour. And that's gonna be in March, April, and then we're gonna come home and do the start the festivals in the summer here in Europe. We haven't announced all the festival yet, but we will announce some, also some in the States. And that's it for now. And but then we're working on the second half of the year, like the final part,
Mm-hmm.
so September on, looking for maybe supporting somebody or opening for somebody or maybe co-headlining. So a little bit more touring, and then next year we're gonna have a special surprise for 27,
Ooh.
but but we're still working on it. And then after that, probably also start working on something new, but not before 27, I would say.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of things to look forward to. That is super exciting. We're very excited for 2026, and we're especially excited to have you guys back here in Dubai, February for Sandstorm Metal Festival. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here, especially during this festive season. And for you guys who are listening, make sure you catch Lacuna Coil at Sandstorm Metal Festival. That's happening on Feb 7th. 2026. Andrea, thank you so much. And we'll see you very, very soon.
Thank you very much, and see
Thank
everybody in
you.
Dubai for a fun
See
time.
you. Bye.
Ciao.
Take care.
Ciao,
Bye.
ciao.
All right, metalheads, don't forget to like and subscribe Sandstorm Music Company on all social media platforms. Keep supporting your local metal scene. And until then, see you in the pit.